What's up, YouTubers? Today I'm going to go ahead and chime in on my hollow grinds that I kind of prefer, best ones that I have in my collection. This is actually kind of a follow-up from an open tag or whatever you want to call it that Lefty EDC posted, kind of in defense of hollow grinds. I followed up, or I watched Satu Dave's follow-up, and I was like, hey, you know what? I got a few hollow grinds that I kind of like, and I'll kind of throw some additional alternates out there that people might not think of. So this is the Cold Steel GoldenEye, and you don't often think of Cold Steel in the modern era as doing a lot of hollow grinds, but they did do a lot of grinds in their earlier years, and this is kind of actually an ode to Cold Steel. This is kind of one of the only hollow grinds that I have. By the time I got into them, they had mostly gone to flat grinds, like on the American Lawman, the Espada, things like that, which did have hollow grinds, the 8010. By the time I kind of got all those, they had already moved on to flat grinds. But this is the GoldenEye. They have rebranded this one, or rebuilt this one under the new GSM as a Silver Eye. It's called the Silver Eye. And I will be interested to see, and if somebody wants to post below, who might have this, I am interested to know if they have kept the hollow grind like they did on the original GoldenEye, or if they've moved on to flat grinds as well for those. So that is the Cold Steel GoldenEye. That's kind of, like I said, in memoriam. I'm actually going to go talk about it at this point in time, kind of in increasing order of price, in terms of some of the hollow grinds that I think are very well done. So this is the CIVI Pintail, and in fact, you can't bring out the Pintail without bringing out the CIVI Hooligan, because that's essentially where they got this blade shape and really a lot of the concept behind this knife. They did a lot of improvements. The original Hooligan, I'll go ahead and move the Pintail out of the way, was actually on washers, and so it doesn't have the greatest action. You can fail it very easily, but they did an amazing job with the hollow grind on this particular blade, and it holds itself up very well. So that was kind of my first introduction on the CIVI side of things. Of course, they followed up with things like the Elementum. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but for me, the Pintail was kind of, I think, their best one in the modern era of, bearings knives. And again, this knife goes for, I don't know, $80 or so. And so for me, that is in the budget range. I think CIVI in the Pintail does a really good job. The Spyderco Yojimbo is a crazy thin. If you take a look at that tip, it is a crazy thin hollow grind on this one. And wow, yeah, this is just insane. It doesn't go super high, but it's a really tall blade, and so in combination it makes for a very, very thin behind the edge there. And of course, this is a very purpose-built knife, designed by Michael Janik for self-defense. For me, it's just a really good blade. We oftentimes think of Spyderco as flat grinds, principally, and they are kind of, to a degree, the king of the full flat grinds. But you know what? For a few knives that they do with hollow grinds, they do them really well. Like the Tanto version of the PM2, pretty good flat grind on that one. And then this one again, the Yojimbo, is very well done. That knife goes for, I don't know, maybe in the 150s range. I haven't reviewed it and haven't. It's been a while. Jumping into the slip joints. How can you go without talking about this particular one is the Midnight Jack from Jack Wolf Knives. These knives are absolutely insane, every one of them. For me, this is the Midnight Jack is just the quintessential beautiful use of a hollow grind there, with this ram's foot blade shape, and everything about this knife. This is, to me, so far, this is probably maybe the best slip joint ever made. These are made by, I believe, Rayot. I'm not positive. Actually, I don't think he discloses it, but I'd be shocked to find out that this was made by anybody other than Rayot. Again, ridiculously thin behind the edge. If you look at the tip on this thing, I definitely wouldn't want to drop this on concrete. But yeah, great hollow grind on that one. Best Tech, another overseas manufacturer. This is the Adam Purvis Xerx version 3. And this is kind of the first one that we're talking about that goes into some of these compound grinds. But On the Xerx 3, it's hollow ground back here, and then this is almost like a pocket scimitar. Has a flat up here, and then it actually has a swedge up there. So the swedge in combination with this hollow grind is really, really nice. This particular one is an integral, and yeah, I would say they don't, I can't think of a lot of Best Tech branded knives that have them, but they're starting to do some really, really good work for OEMs. And that would be one of them. Again, that is the Xerx version 3, Adam Purvis Design. That one, I want to say was $375 or so. No, $350, I believe, or $325. So back to a well-known, this is in fact known to be Rayot. And this is the Chavez Design Redención 229 Ultramar. The Ultramar is kind of the production line that Ramon Chavez outsources to China. And again, if you take a look at the compound ground on this one, you have this beautiful hollow back here, swedge on top, and this is Chavez's take on a Tonto, and I really, really like it. In fact, this is, I kind of forgot about this one in my favorite Tonto blades, but again, the one that I had picked from Rayot was on the K2, very similar to this one. So yeah, the Redención 229, again, very thin, but also quite, not as thin as some of the crazy thin ones, but very, very good. Again, it makes for some really good cutting. Then we step up to now we're going into the super pricey range. As far as for a heavier duty or knife, I think whether you're talking a Sebenza or an Nkosi, I happen to be an Nkosi guy. Usually I don't like 2 finger grooves in the handle, but on the Nkosi, I found that I really do like it. And I just prefer the washer design, and I also prefer the takedown design of this one over the Sebenza. So for me, the Nkosi, that you can replace this with the Sebenza. Fairly stout. They're not super, super thin behind the edge, but they do make it for a great slicing capability. And yeah, whether you get this one or the Tonto or the regular drop points, I think every single one of them that I've handled is very, very nice. Again, it separates itself as a slicer, but yet this is still a pretty hard, capable use knife. It is on washers. It's not one that has crazy action. With a little bit of wrist, you can get it, going pretty fast. And this one, I don't have super drop shut yet. I probably only opened it 1,000 times, so it hasn't been super worn in. But yeah, Chris Reeve knives, the Nkosi, in this case, these are going, I think, for $500 now. Even it was $450 when I bought it. So, but I believe that Chris Reeves went up recently to like $500 for the large. And then I think at the top of the food chain, not necessarily in just hollow grinds, but for me, just still, I haven't found a better production knife made than the Koenig Arius. This is, made by Bill Koenig, designed by T.J. Schwartz, and it's a very tall blade. So in combination with the hollow, you end up with a very thin at the edge, but also a very stout blade. This is a rock solid blade, full titanium. This particular one is a flipper. They also have one that's in a non-flipper. This one has great action with the bearings. The production quality is essentially perfect. The flaws that you find in this knife are few and far between, and it's usually not in production or design. It's usually in a preference or a lack of availability, as the case would be oftentimes. And now actually with the prices, these used to go for like literally, I want to say $625, I think, and now they're like up to $785 in just the course of 3 years. So it's, but I think it's very tough to argue that the hollow on the Arius doesn't make it very effective against, some much thinner blade stock knives out there. So again, yeah, a modern Arius is going to cost you $785. So that would be kind of the top of the food chain. Those are just some of my thoughts on some of the better hollow grinds that are out there. We'll see if I can fit all these in. I don't know if I can. We'll try. Again, we have the Arius, the Nkosi, the Redención 229 made by Rayot, The Best Tech Made Adam Purvis Blades Zerks version 3. The Jack Wolf knives. This one is the Midnight Jack, but you can really go with any of them. Is really, really good. Spyderco. Again, your flat grind company coming in and doing some pretty good ones. That particular one is the Yojimbo. And then last one is CIVI with the Pintail. And again, in memoriam, cold steel. Wish that you would do a few more or bring back some of your hollow grinds. So I hope this was interesting. Take care.